WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. Here come the Pittsburgh Steelers and the backside of the Ravens losing a lot of football games here lately. Things have changed since the last time I had this guy on. He did pre- and post-game with me a month ago as we came through and cleaned the Steelers' clock, and since then, the worm has turned. Mark Kaboly joins us from The Athletic. He is the senior Steelers writer up there, as well as Pro Football Writers of Association guy, an insider, and holding little cameras in front of Antonio Brown whenever he gets the opportunity. Boy, last time we got together, you were like kicking dirt on the Steelers, and it was a bad year, and here we go. It doesn't take much. I mean, the Ravens have been a mess, and the Steelers, well, look like the Steelers all of a sudden, don't they, Mark?
Yeah, they got some things figured out, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They've gotten some a little bit healthier with Morgan Burnett coming back, and they're playing. They got things kind of figured out. And honestly, it might have came in that second half of the Baltimore game where they held them to a bunch of field goals. Ever since that point right then, they've been pretty good with the pressure, not allowing any of the deep balls that they've been struggled with earlier. No missed tackles, no communication errors. I think it was just a matter of them working things out with a lot of new faces, a lot of new coaches, and the offense is doing what it has to do right now. And they've won some pretty important games, but really, I mean, this is the most important one right now because whoever that wins this one on Sunday now sets themselves up for the inside track, or at least have the good chance, or if there is any tiebreakers, to go ahead of them with the division race heading down the stretch here. I would like to see this game maybe in December and not on Halloween or a little bit after Halloween, but hey, what you going to do, right?
Well, and this is a story for the whole division, though, right? I mean, all the teams are getting rid of each other early. We're done with Cincinnati next week. We're done on the road. We've been done on the road for a couple of weeks now. And for you and your team, I've told the story all week. Luke and I think you were in the press box late that night, going into October 1st, right? So 2:20 in the morning, Luke and I picked up our bags, and we rolled out of Heinz Field. We rolled up the hill. You were up there taunting us in the media parking lot at quarter to 3.
You didn't know how to get out. That's why.
Quarter to 3 in the morning. Well, I'm trying to get the hell out of Pittsburgh. I didn't want to go toward Cleveland or Youngstown, or certainly not Erie, where I once had an ex-girlfriend. But, Luke and I were literally, when I got in the car, we went up onto the little ramp, and we saw the stadium as we're going across the bridge back toward the airport at 2:30 in the morning. And I said to Luke, I wonder what it's going to look like when they come in at bye weekend. Is this the year the Ravens are going to be 6-2 and the Steelers are going to be 4-4? And it turns out that everything that could go wrong for the Ravens really has unraveled over the last month. And once again, the Ravens are playing from behind. It's crazy.
Yeah, but it's easily made up. It's not like were they a game and a half ahead of them. I'm not too sure with this tie, but you have to understand, you're talking about being done on the road with some teams and stuff like that. Steelers have a pretty rough schedule. Not so much teams that they can't beat, but teams that, where you're traveling to Oakland, where you're traveling to Denver, when you're traveling to Jacksonville and New Orleans, all within a span of a month, and hosting teams like the Chargers and the Patriots in between all of that. So that's why this game's very important.
Well, you have 4 home games left, and they're all with teams that think they're going to the playoffs, right? Carolina, Chargers, Patriots, Bengals, right? Literally.
Yeah, I totally forgot about the Panthers, too. So, I mean, the only one that looks like a cupcake right now maybe is Oakland, but the Steelers struggle crazily in Oakland over the years, so that's no slam dunk as well. So, I mean, if you're going to get some space on them right now, this would be huge to go down to a place that they really don't play very well at, and beat the Ravens, open up a little bit of a wiggle room there, so maybe they can, falter here with this tough road schedule heading down the stretch here. But I still have a feeling this is going to come down to the last week or two of the season. And I know the Steelers do end up home with Cincinnati, day before New Year's, so that might have a lot to do with it as well. So, I mean, like I said, it was just a month ago, and we thought it was the other way around. So I'm not going to rubber stamp that this division's, the Steelers right now. They are only 4-2-1. It's not like that's insurmountable.
Oh, well, they're certainly in a better shape than the Ravens, but you said, well, there's time to make things up. Not for the Ravens. There's 1 o'clock till 4 o'clock on Sunday for the Ravens, because 4-5 and the Steelers at 5-2-1 would be very, very untenable. That would be a real rough way for the Ravens to go into the bye. So I think it's an important game for the Steelers. It's an essential game for the Ravens. It's a life or death kind of game for the Ravens.
Well, like I said, I mean, the Ravens play the Steelers pretty well down there, too. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I can't remember too many wins in Baltimore over the last 15 years.
I remember Ryan Mallett.
Yes, a game that the Steelers actually needed pretty much, and see what happened there. I mean, even when, 2000, I think Jamal Lewis might have went over 2,000 yards back in, 2002 with that season as well, but they don't play well in Baltimore. I know they won the division there on that interesting Santonio Holmes catch. My goodness, that would be a decade ago now.
Man, we got between you and me, and we throw Bouchette and a couple others in there to watch all these games. It's been rich with pageantry, hasn't it? But I can't remember the Steelers coming in ever at Halloween, because they usually play later in the year. But coming in Halloween with a knockout punch for the Ravens, like with literally something that could floor the franchise from a Flacco, Harbaugh, veteran Suggs sort of perspective. That the Steelers haven't had that opportunity. Now, that being said, we can all say, well, the Ravens can punch back, win this game, and we've got a season. But this is a rare thing, I think, in early November.
So you're saying that the Steelers can come in, beat the Ravens, their season down spirals, Harbaugh ends up getting tossed out, they go to Lamar Jackson, and the face of the franchise all changes. You know what? That seems like that's what happens every time the Steelers play the Cleveland Browns, too. That's 6 straight coaches in 10 years. That after they lost to the Steelers, that something crazy happened. So I guess if you look at it that way, that would be an interesting situation, that it would be the Pittsburgh Steelers delivering a blow that changes the franchise and how it looks right now. But I would say that you are more in tune with the thoughts of that potentially happening than me. But I find that an interesting thought, that they can knock out potentially their 2 biggest rivals.
Well, I think we're going to see a different team than we saw 4 weeks ago, Mark. Certainly on your side of the fence, and what's happened with their offense, what's happened with the running game. Mark Kaboly joining us here. He is at the Athletic in Pittsburgh. All of our WNST coverage brought to you by our friends at the Lee Tessier team, Baltimore's premier realty team, and the folks I trust with my real estate transactions. Over 50 years of doing it. Learn more at leetessier.com. Also, our friends at Cole Roofing. I am without my coffee cup on the set right now, but Bill Cole's going to be here with some civic therapy for me for the 4-4 Ravens a little later on in the week. They also sponsor our community and charity series, heard on Thursday mornings. If you have a community or charity issue you need me to promote, toss me a note, nasty@WNST.net. I think I'm going to try to help the Pathfinders for Autism folks this week, trying to set that up as well. It's all brought to you by Cole Roofing. Mark, for the offense in the Steelers and where the Le'Veon Bell thing was the last time I talked to you, and $856,000 a week, and as fans here, we would have collected to keep him off the team back then. It doesn't look like he's coming back. It looks like this drama is going to have a resounding Steelers win, and maybe the dumbest holdout in the history of the National Football League, right?
Yeah, who knows? He might be in Baltimore Sunday. He might be. He might not show up for 2 weeks. He might not show up at all. And let me tell you something, the Steelers don't really care right now, and I can legitimately say they don't care one bit if he shows up or not. That goes with players. That goes with organization. Because look at it, they're making $855K a week back into the salary cap without him there. He has no chance of creating any type of drama. James Conner is, average on pace for close to 2,000 all-purpose yards, and his offense, they've won 3 in a row. So if the only issue would be if Conner would get hurt, they would need him. I would assume he would be. I mean, he has to make a decision by November 13th, or he can't play the entire season. I'm sure that's probably the date he'll be coming back. But my goodness, you talk about the Steelers' offense. James Conner, he's getting a ton of accolades here. He's running hard. He's breaking tackles. He's doing all the things that you saw him do at Pitt, pre-knee injuries, pre-cancer diagnosis. But let me tell you something. This offensive line has been absolutely spectacular ever since that Baltimore game. They've been opening up holes that I could run and get maybe a yard or two through. That's how bad it's been. And that's what makes this very interesting type of situation this week, because they tend to not run very well historically against Baltimore. I know Le'Veon maybe last year down there did pretty well, but historically, whatever the Baltimore does, whatever their alignment is, it doesn't really translate into something that the Steelers can run against. But you can talk about James Conner, and he deserves every accolade he could get. But this offensive line, 4 or 5 guys getting paid a ton of money now, who've been. When have you ever seen an offensive line start 4 consecutive seasons together? You don't see that in the NFL. And they're paying them all in. I mean, DeCastro's making $60 million. Pouncey's making $40 million. Gilbert's making $40. Villanueva's making $30. Their low guys making like 10 or 12.
Well, then you wonder why the defense is bleeding, right? I mean, the defense is bleeding because all the money went to the offense, right? Literally.
Offense, but they supplemented the defense with younger guys, first-round picks. You look along the defense, and everybody's either a first, second, or third-round pick. I mean, majority of them are first- and second-round picks. They built the defense through the draft, established an offense, and paid the offense. And the defense, hey, it's been playing a lot better than it did against Kansas City, against Cleveland the first game, against Tampa Bay, and even against the Ravens in the first half. It's been quite a remarkable turnaround for that unit over the past month.
And seeing Big Ben play like this, and I know you watched Tom Brady on Monday night. We all are watching Aaron Rodgers. We saw Drew Brees last week. The quarterback play in this league and all of the, you can't hit them high, you can't hit them low, but you can't hurt them. And that's why Roethlisberger and Flacco are playing this week. That's why Flacco and Newton were playing last week, and Flacco and Brees. Last year, all we saw were Brett Hundleys and Deshaun Kaisers and all of that stuff. And I know there's some places where that's still going to happen, but by and large, as the leaves turn finally around here, we have upright quarterbacks, and Roethlisberger's doing it as well as he's ever done it, right? It feels like he's 29 right now, right?
Yeah, it's changed a little bit from how they approach the game. First of all, he hasn't been hit very much this year at all. I think he's been sacked maybe 10 times in 7 games. He's rarely hit. I think against Sunday against Cleveland was his first sack since maybe the Baltimore game. So it's been a while with that veteran offensive lineman. But, the first 2 or 3 games, it was thrown about 50, 60 times a game, winging it. He was throwing, 500 yards. He's still on pace for over 5,000 yards this season. But their dedication after the Baltimore game to at least establishing the run, setting a tone, letting him throw off of that has really changed this offensive line. So I wouldn't expect Roethlisberger would go in there Sunday and throw the ball 40, 50, 60 times, because it's a mindset of running the ball, then helping out the defense that needed some help. I don't think it's by coincidence that the defense has gotten better as the offense has been running the ball more, controlling tempo, controlling clock as well, keeping those guys off the field as well. But Roethlisberger, just think, they have nobody who's a third receiver right now. They're just absolutely torched at that position. They have nobody can do it. If they could find somebody can do that, this offense would be extremely good right now. They can't find him. They had picked James Washington in the second round. He has not been very good right now.
Well, just a kid out of Auburn a couple years ago, too, that wasn't any good, right?
Oh, I don't even know. You know what? He had a monster first 4 or 5 games a couple years ago. He had then he broke his finger, and I swear to you, he's never recovered from a broken finger. I think
Sammy Coates, right?
They traded him to Cleveland. Then he went to Houston. I mean, he had 157 yards in one game. Then he had 2 catches the rest of the year because he broke his finger and he never recovered from it. So they've had a lot of hits with their wide receivers over the years. They had their share of misses too, and Sammy Coates was definitely one of them. They need a third guy, and maybe if Le'Veon Bell would ever get back, they could use him in a role, maybe not specific as a receiver. He wants to get paid as a receiver. Put him out there, let him run some routes.
Well, and to see Brown and Smith-Schuster both have 46 catches, both have 500, almost 600 yards, it feels a little more balanced where you would expect Brown to be the only guy. You say they don't have a third one. They got a hell of a second one, man.
Yeah, Juju's been, I mean, the last couple of weeks hasn't been tremendous, but he still is making a ton of plays. I mean, he's not going to be 22 until another week. And I think he has over 1,500 career receiving yards, and he's the youngest guy who's ever had 1,500 receiving yards, beating guys like Larry Fitzgerald, Jerry Rice, guys like that. So he's on the right track. The thing with Antonio Brown, too, is he's gotten better. They've connected more. They've patched up their relationship with Roethlisberger, but he hasn't yet to have that Antonio-like game where he seems to have one a year to actually push those numbers over, one of those 14 205s and 2s. He has a lot of 6 for 70s and a couple touchdowns. I think he has 8 or 9 touchdowns. He has a ton of touchdowns, but he just hasn't have the volume yet as well. So you expect him to break out with one of those huge outputs one of these days as well. So I think they like where they're at. I mean, Vance McDonald's playing well at tight end. He's running people over. It's just a matter of not making mistakes, not turning the ball over, which when they did against Cleveland, they lost. So they can't do stuff like that. They just play fundamentally sound, which is sometimes an issue. I think they have a good chance of, winning 10 games this year.
Mark Kaboly covers all things Steelers in Pittsburgh. He's a senior Steelers writer for The Athletic. He's also the president of the Pro Football Writers Association of Pittsburgh, which means he has to deal with Chris Pica, which we like as well. He's been covering the Steelers for 2 decades up there. You can find him at The Athletic as well as out on Twitter. That's Kaboly, Mark with a K. All right, last thing for you. Obviously, you're one of Yins and Nat up there. Let's get off the playground and get onto the real field and what happened up in Squirrel Hill. And, I don't think I can, speak to – in Baltimore, the Ravens are a big part of our community, but in Pittsburgh, the Steelers are sort of a foundational part of everything that matters up there. And I didn't know until earlier in the week that that there were Steeler representatives involved in this and people like you who knew people that were inside the synagogue. It's just we call it Smaltimore here, but you can speak to that in Pittsburgh and what this tragedy is represented for your community, man.
Yeah, it's devastating here and still to the point. I mean, they had some of the funerals on Tuesday, and as you alluded to, one of this former Steelers community relations lady, maybe 2 or 3 years ago she left, but she was there a long time. 2 of her brothers were killed in that incident in Squirrel Hill in that synagogue. And on Tuesday, the entire Steelers organization showed up to the viewing. I'm talking Mike Tomlin, Kevin Colbert, Ben Roethlisberger, Marquise Pouncey, Omar Khan. I mean, everybody. The team photographer. So it was because Mike Tomlin does not live far from that synagogue. He lives in Shadyside, but that's just a street over. So he's a very much part of that community. And I mean, it's not only the Steelers. I mean, the Penguins, the Pirates, everybody involved is showing their support to that area because, I mean, if one place you should probably feel safe is probably in your house of worship. And it was just, a situation where you had one guy who was maybe not very stable, and it ruined lives of many, many, many people. Nestor, we're talking about 97-year-old lady getting murdered in there. We're talking about 85-year-old people getting murdered in there. It's just a tough situation, and it's been how can you put it? It's tough because the whole community is coming together in Israel. You saw that on Sunday, the day after, at the Heinz Field, where something this tragic seems to tend to bring people together. And it's just hopefully that will be the overwhelming theme of this rather than the hatred involved. But the Steelers taking a big part in that. Like I said on Tuesday, they all showed up.
Yeah, it's a heavy week.
Pretty unusual.
It's a heavy week. There's no doubt about it. Steelers, Ravens is heavy on the football field. Obviously, more important things happening up in Pittsburgh, and the Steelers very much a part of what's going on up there. Mark Kaboly has covered the Steelers for 2 decades. You can find him out at The Athletic. Always good to catch up with you, man. We get together, Pittsburgh and Baltimore, share some football. I'll make sure you don't get a tourist crab cake down here, buddy, okay?
I appreciate it, Nestor.
Well, I always find the good pierogies when I'm up there, right? We'll see you soon,
I don't
brother.
know.
We'll see you soon, man. I'll see you on Saturday night when we get in here, all right?
All right, we'll see you.
You got it. He sticks to football out there as well. But it says so on Twitter, but we can't all stick to football. It's voting week around here. I'm going to be putting up my vote stuff. Obviously, we had a chat with Johnny O as well as Al Redmer in our homeland of Baltimore County executive, both gentlemen that I've known for a long period of time. And you can hear those chats out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault as well as here at AM 1570. You can find me in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world, including in Pittsburgh, where I've listened. Not often enough. You can also find us in your morning newspaper and digitally. That comes to your email inbox on your phone, on your iPad, on your laptop, wherever you are. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's always $5 down, $10 a month, and warm inside to get in the best shape of your life. Also, our friends at the Maryland Jockey Club in Laurel. I was down in Laurel for the Maryland Million last week. Beautiful new sports bar down there. If you haven't been to Laurel lately, get down there and check it out. The entry's in the front of WNST.net, as well as in our morning newspaper daily. Any breaking news? Anything from the Orioles would be breaking news. It'd be breaking glass at this point. We'll get that out to you first on the WNST Tech Service. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard, and Dennis Colazzos will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5, driving you home. It is the SSV on WNST. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.